Welcome back to another episode of This Chapter Rewritten. Today, like so many of my episodes, this topic is very personal to me. But I also really believe that so many people will be able to relate to this. Today, we're going to talk about trauma bonds. We're going to discuss what they are, how they're created, and why they are so incredibly hard to break free from. I want to share with you what this has looked like in my life, how I got tangled up in not only one, but two trauma bonds throughout my life without even realizing it, and the truth about what it takes to really break free from one. But before we dive in, let's talk about today's sponsor, Rakuten. When you sign up with Rakuten and you buy online at stores like Lululemon, Sephora, even Walmart, you receive cash back for buying things you were going to buy anyway. If you want to give it a try, use the link in the show notes and you will earn a bonus $30. Okay, so let's talk about what exactly a trauma bond is and how you end up in a trauma bond. Because I know for myself, I didn't even really know what a trauma bond was until just a few years ago. And when I learned about trauma bonds, I realized that I had been in a trauma bond for almost 15 years. So what exactly is it? Trauma bond is an intense emotional attachment that forms between a person and someone who is abusive, manipulative, or toxic in any way. It's not based on real healthy love. It's based on cycles of abuse mixed with intermittent kindness. What happens is the person will hurt you, pull away, betray your trust, or make you feel small, and then suddenly they'll switch and give you just enough affection, just enough validation, just enough attention to make you believe that the connection is worth fighting for. That cycle, the inconsistency, the push and pull, the moments of rejection followed by the moments of feeling chosen again, it literally rewires your brain. What happens is you don't know exactly when you're going to get that reward, so you just keep pulling the lever, waiting for it to happen. And that uncertainty, the breadcrumbing, it becomes an addiction. And because of that, you can end up clinging to the relationship, not because it's good for you, not because you're truly happy, because in most cases, you're not happy at all. Maybe a little bit, but only feel a little bit elated when those brief moments of validation happen. Other than that, you're pretty unhappy, but you stay because your nervous system is literally hooked on these highs and lows. So how exactly do you know if you are caught in a trauma bond? I'm going to share a few signs that might help you identify if you are in a trauma bond or to realize if you've ever been in one. So if you're feeling stuck in a relationship that you know deep down is really not good for you, there's a chance you are in a trauma bond. If you catch yourself defending this person's behavior to others, even when you know that they're hurting you, you believe if you just try harder, if you can just be enough, they'll finally choose you and treat you right. I definitely experienced this in my last relationship where I was changing myself and I wanted to be a good partner, but it was not just let me adjust mildly so that my partner feels better in the relationship. I was really bending. I could feel it just didn't feel right. It didn't feel natural. It didn't feel who I am, where I was changing the way that I spoke to him, the way I expressed myself, the way I stuffed down my feelings. It was like I diluted everything for him. And now looking back, I think it was a very clear sign that I even felt the need to do that, that something wasn't right. It wasn't healthy. It's fine to want to approach your partner in a way that allows them to feel open and loved and respected, of course. But it was really a case of how can I dilute these horrible feelings that I'm feeling, how badly I'm feeling in this relationship to try to make it so that I felt more chosen by him. If you're feeling intense anxiety when they pull away, and then this huge sense of relief when they come back, even if nothing changes, you are likely caught in a trauma bond. And the one that I think is the biggest is if you find yourself really unable to let go and leave the relationship, even though you know that you should, or maybe even really want to. So I wanted to leave my relationship many times. And when I say to people, I tried to break up with him several times, they're like, what do you mean you tried? You just do it. If you wanted to break up with him, just break up with him. Okay, but you've never been in a trauma bond then if you're saying that to me. Because I remember it didn't matter if it was on the phone, in person. I would try to break up with him over the phone twice. And I would literally get off the phone and be like, what just happened? So we didn't break up. I don't even know how that happened. He just always had a way to keep me hooked on. He would just say just enough. And then I would think, okay, well, that didn't go as planned. Or in person, it would be like once I was in his presence and he was giving me validation, I would just fall right back into it. I'd lose the nerve to do it. And so if you are finding yourself thinking, I need to end this relationship, I should really get out of this relationship, I'm not happy, but then you're not leaving, that's a really strong sign that you are caught in a trauma bond. I would even say to myself at times, like, I don't think I actually even like this person. I don't even like who this person is. I really wasn't happy, but because of the manipulation, the inconsistency, the breadcrumbing, I just developed this overwhelming feeling that I needed to make the relationship work. When I look back now, I realize that it wasn't even him that I was craving. I was just craving the feeling of being chosen, that hit of validation that would come when he would throw me just enough scraps of attention. And that's the trap of trauma bonds. They make you believe that you're holding on to love, but what you're really holding on to is pain mixed with feelings of false hope. When I look back at that relationship, I can see now that I was definitely trauma bonded, but I didn't really realize it at the time. Like, I didn't realize so much of how deep I was into this toxic relationship. All I knew was that I felt hooked in a weird way that I couldn't explain. I mentioned earlier that I realized when I learned about trauma bonds just a few years ago that I had actually been in a trauma bond for over 15 years. So I'm typically more of a classic avoidant type, thank you next kind of person. And it's certainly not something that I'm gloating about. I'm trying to learn to be attached in a healthy way. But my point is for me to be stuck in a relationship that I was unhappy in, it's out of character for me. And actually, this person was someone I had even dated when I was 18. We dated very briefly. He started to annoy me, and I was like, but we started talking and dating again in my early 20s. And I was with him for almost 5 years. And it was the most toxic relationship that I've ever been in. I started doing therapy a few years ago. I explained at the time I felt stuck where he was concerned and that it was affecting like other relationships. And this person has been sort of in and out of my life, not in a romantic relationship way, but just in a maybe spending a little time together or chit chatting here and there in the last 7 years. So, I mean, that was my early 20s. I'm 45 now. So this is going over a very, very long period of time now. But I didn't even realize, I didn't know that I was trauma bonded to him. And even though I was away from him, I broke up with him, it was very, very hard not to go back. I had gone back so many times. And I didn't really understand why it was so hard to finally stay away from him when I was never even happy in the relationship. He didn't treat me good. He's a very toxic person, definitely avoidant, maybe narcissistic, but I was always drawn back in, and it took me a very long time to clear him from my mind, and I never really fully did. And he would pop up. Like, I remember him texting me, "Happy birthday." I'm like pregnant in bed with my husband. It's super weird, piss off. But still, it was like, at that point, 4 years after we had broken up, you're still popping up. They never go away. You have to completely cut ties to them. But it's a very strange feeling to stay energetically or emotionally tied to someone for so long. And that is how intense a trauma bond can be. Even though they're not a consistent in your life, you're not even with them anymore, trauma bond can be so intense that there's still that residual lingering tie 15, 20 years later. So we're going to talk about how do we break a trauma bond. So we've talked about what a trauma bond is, some signs that you are maybe caught in a trauma bond now. If that's you, if you're thinking, okay, I see it, I want out, here's what we have to do. So number one is going no contact. I know there's times where that's not possible. If you have children together, I would recommend limiting contact to only child-related things and to keep it matter of fact. You can co-parent amicably and be doing what is best for children involved and not be friends with this person, especially if the situation is toxic. You don't need to be friends with this person. If there's toxicity, it's not good for the children anyway. I would just set a boundary there that it's email contact only. Now, if you don't share children, just go completely no contact. Because every text message, every phone call, every time you look at their social media, that just keeps the cycle alive. So delete them from your social media, block them, whatever it is that you need to do. Because breaking off all contact is like breaking that chain. This one's really hard, but you have to feel that sense of withdrawal. It's part of it. And I'd love to say that once you walk away and you cut off contact, that it's smooth sailing from there. It's not. It is hard. You're going to have feelings where you want to go back. Your mind is going to be trying to convince you that you've overreacted. So allow yourself to feel it. Be prepared for it, because when you walk away, you are going to feel it. Cravings, the longing, the ache, because you've felt for so long like you needed this person. But that does not mean that you should go back. Your brain is detoxing. Let it do what it needs to do and just try to be patient, because it does get easier in time. You've got to reconnect with reality. There is so much cognitive dissonance that occurs in a trauma bond. So cognitive dissonance is basically like when your brain is telling you two different things, two conflicting things about the same situation. So your brain is telling you you're unhappy, this person is bad for you, but then it's also telling you you need this person, you need this relationship. If you can make this relationship work, it will validate you. It will make you feel like you are worthy. So take the time to reconnect with reality. Do journaling, try out therapy if you're not already, talk to trusted friends. Don't hold all of this in. This has been part of my way of reconnecting with reality. So I'm not suggesting that everyone go out and put their story out in the public. I understand that's not for everyone. It has helped me as much as I'm really, really hoping that it's helping others by me being vulnerable and putting my story out there. You will need to remind yourself about the reality of what really happened. And this can be painful, but your brain will try to rewrite the story to pull you back in. So you have to make sure you're very clear on what really happened in that relationship. If you think that you're in a trauma bond right now, I would encourage you, even if you're not ready to leave, start journaling now. If it's something that you can keep private, ask a friend to keep track of some things for you. Keep your journal maybe at work if you have a locked desk or something like that. I just say that because I was journaling throughout my relationship, and I actually have looked back at things that I journaled about, and I don't remember those things happening. So things that happened particularly earlier on in the relationship, I don't even remember it. Now, this was a 6-month relationship, so we're not talking about, I don't remember what happened 5 years ago, or I don't remember it happening the way that it was relayed in my journaling. So that is how much your brain can rewrite things, especially when they're gaslighting you. So the next step is rebuilding your identity. In a trauma bond, we tend to completely lose ourselves. I know that I did. I have talked about how, particularly in the first few weeks following finally getting away from him, that I didn't even know who I was. I didn't recognize myself when I looked in the mirror, and it's very strange. And that happened to me in a short period of time. If it's early on in a relationship and you're already feeling these signs of a trauma bond, I really encourage you to get out now, because the longer you are there, the longer it is to sort of undo all of what has happened to you and to find yourself again. For myself, I will never be the same person that I was before going into that relationship. And I've just had to come to terms with it and realize that maybe that's not such a bad thing, because it has pushed me to really evaluate myself and look at my identity and rebuilding myself, because I don't think I liked who I was even before I met him. And that time leading up to meeting him was actually a very confusing time for me, where a lot of things in my life were very unsettled. It has given me the strength that I didn't have previously to work really hard on rebuilding myself. It's a very slow process, and I'm still figuring it out day by day. You have to figure out who you are when you're not orbiting around this person anymore. And the next one is thinking about how you will set boundaries in the future. Once you see the patterns, you can start to recognize the red flags a lot sooner. Love bombing, the way someone maybe makes you feel like you're too much or not enough. And that awareness will help protect you from falling back into the same situation again. So this is what I want you to really understand about trauma bonds. They don't break because the other person finally wakes up and changes. They only break when you make the decision to change the relationship that you have with yourself. For me, that's really been about turning my focus inward, pouring energy into myself rather than someone who didn't value me. I spent so much time pouring energy into this person who couldn't have cared less about me, and I completely forgot about caring about myself. Now I'm choosing to rebuild my confidence, my self-worth, and finding what brings me joy. And like I said, I really don't believe that you ever come out of a trauma bond the same person that you were before. It changes you. I have times where I am so confused because it's almost like there's a gap in time. I was so wrapped up in the toxicity that I wasn't even in touch with reality, it feels like. I'm choosing now to turn what was such a negative experience into something positive. This is the moment that you can decide, I will never ignore my needs again. I will never settle for breadcrumbs again. I will never give my power away like that again. So if you are listening to this right now and you think you are in a trauma bond, or maybe you just got out of one like me, I want you to understand, I know how impossible it feels. I know how much you want to believe that it can work. I know just how deep that pull is to be chosen by the person who keeps hurting you. But you deserve so much more than that. You deserve peace. You deserve a love that feels safe and steady. You deserve to know yourself again. And the truth is, breaking free is the ultimate act of self-love, because it's not just about leaving them, it's about choosing you. I want to thank you for listening today and letting me share something that is so personal and raw. If this resonated with you, I want you to know you are not alone. Trauma bonds are powerful, but so are you. And remember, this is your chance to rewrite your story, to reclaim your reality, to rebuild who you are, and to step into the life that you deserve.